Good morning, everyone. Again, welcome back to this advanced accessibility discussion. Some of you probably heard me. We will be during this 1 hour and 45 minutes and plus. We do not know how much our time we will go. We try to finish on time. We will be discussing some of the advanced accessibility feature with the Seattle Center site, as well as City of Seattle. And our colleague from King County, she shared also an application with us, which is great, and we see some good learning points there. But before we dive into the discussion, I wanted to tell you that we are just really touching the surface of accessibility. And then during the break, I thought about the accessibility mailing list that we have. Our accessibility mailing list is open to the public. This is not just for the UW. And then I personally do not, as long as the policy is that to open it to the outside world. And then our colleagues from different companies sometimes participate and contribute to that discussion. I don't see any reason not to advertise it to you, and then don't see any problem that you guys cannot be part of that. Dan, if you are on the call, can you send a link to the accessible web mailing list for the case if anyone is interested to join the discussion and at least learn about our monthly meetup so they can join us?
Of course.
Thank you. Wonderful. So another thing that I would like to mention that I am offering also a certificate course from I'm teaching at the University of Illinois. I'm not advertising for my course, but I just wanted to say that really for many years I wanted to stop teaching that course because it is too much work for me doing that from here, but every term they said, hey, one more time, but so I am teaching that for many years now. Alyssa is going to share a link with you that where you can learn about that certificate course. It is I think 3 incremental certificate course. We divided the course 1, 2, and 3, and usually you cannot go to the course 2 if you haven't completed the course 1. So you at the end, you can get a certificate that it is equivalent to IAAP certificate. So we have an agreement with them. So anyone who completes our course, practically they get also the IAAP certificate. It is not easy. Some of the topic might not be relevant for some of you if you are a developer, but I might be able to waive the requirement for those of you who are developer and you are maybe not interested in the most basic accessibility discussion. But if you are interested, if your department decides to support that, please let me know and I might be able to talk with you. I mean, I can talk with you and then hopefully for the next round, we can waive the requirement so you don't have to, for example, complete the certificate 1 before you go to certificate 2. But the most relevant thing for you is this course 2 and 3. We discussed the accessibility of documents and then HTML. And then in the course 3, we focus more on advanced ARIA. Anyway, so thank you. Alyssa and Teriol are helping me today to go through some of those findings that we had. Alyssa, what is the first topic that we are going to discuss? I think it was the focus management.
Yes, I would like to go through some aspects of focus management on the City Seattle, not the Seattle Center website.
Okay, can you drive my?
Yep.
Page?
So the first thing we're going to go to is the booking request form. We heard last session that it's managed by a third-party vendor, but as we always say, it's important to ensure that all aspects of your website no matter who owns them, is accessible. So we're going to take Hadi to the booking request form here.
Leaving menus. Blank. Booking request form dash Google Chrome. Booking request form. Color blue, bold 90%.
Oops.
All right, so this is kind of fits into two categories, dynamic events and focus management. So here we have the booking request form on screen. And if I enter the form, let's enter it here. If I tab into each form field, on the right-hand side, a component will appear that says check all that apply. And visually, I can see it on the screen at the same time I see the form element. However, Hadi will have a different experience as he attempts to browse the form. So I'm going to attempt to bring it one up, and Hadi, you can try to read the form.
Okay. I'm pressing tab.
Audience access star group. Free checkbox not checked.
All right, so one thing we can notice is that he doesn't have that announcement of that card on the right-hand side that says check all that apply. So as he tabs to it, he doesn't hear it.
I mean, if I go,
Checkbox not checked. Free checkbox not checked.
I don't even have it in, I guess, in a reading mode either.
Checkbox not checked. Public
I
checkbox.
believe it's after the checkbox, so if you want to try reading it, yeah.
Check all that apply. Groups are type of event star. Ceremonies slash reception.
Right.
Groups check all that apply.
Yep, there
Yeah,
it is.
correct. This is right. So it is completely detached to the form control. So these instruction arbiters are critical. They have to be embedded with the form control. And when you detach it, then it will be out of the order. And then most importantly, they are not glued to the form control. And if somebody tries to interact the website, or interact with the website, they don't get that prompt properly at the right time. And then, so there are some solutions for that. Tara, do you want to elaborate on that, or?
I don't know that I really have anything else to add to it.
So I don't know the technique that we are using, why we are using cards here. If that instruction is important, then it should be, as again, instruction should be there. I mean, it is interesting, that with the technique with the card, but Tyrell, I wanted to suggest, using the ARIA described by. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that would be good. And generally that's good. We talked a little bit yesterday about the relationship between labels and form fields. And you can only have one label per form field. But sometimes you do have supplemental help text about a form field that a user needs to have access to. This particular message, I think, probably is not all that helpful, because it's the fact that you can check all is communicated by the fact that these are checkboxes, not radio buttons. But if that were useful information, then audience access is relevant. The label for each checkbox, free, ticketed, public, and private, that's relevant. And the supplemental help text is relevant. And so to bring in that supplemental help text, you can use ARIA described by, so that's ARIA -described by equals, and then the value of that attribute is the ID of the help text. And then when a user lands on that button, if it's coded as a field set with audience access being a legend and free being a label, then that checkbox would also need ARIA described by on it. And then you've got all the pieces together. So the legend, the label, and that described by help text would all be incorporated into the interface that the screen reader delivers to the user.
But there really is still a problem that they are not rendered logically. So in this case, I see this additional supplemental help, or whatever you call the card information, after I don't know, some other checkboxes. So I can't make the relationship between checkbox and the proper information. So if we do that, we need also to make sure that they are you know, render next to each other. Visually they are, but not logically. Does it make sense? I mean, probably we should tell a little bit the difference between ARIA labeled by and ARIA described by, and maybe ARIA label. Terrell, do you want to maybe use 2 minutes to elaborate on that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna supplement this with chat. There are a few attributes. So we've kind of provided an overview of ARIA yesterday. Again, it stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. And the way it's used on the web is it supplements HTML. So you can add new attributes to your HTML in order to add additional information that benefits assistive technologies. And so really common ones that are used are ARIA label and ARIA labeled by and ARIA described by. And the difference in those three is that ARIA label is actual text that becomes the label. And so I want to look, when I look at the menus in a little bit, we'll actually see an example of that, where you might have something like ARIA label equals, well, in the example of what not to do, I think it's a menu navigation button or something to that effect, which is a little bit redundant. But if you have ARIA label equals menu navigation button, then screen readers are going to call that thing menu navigation button. ARIA, anything that ends in by, though, ARIA labeled by or ARIA described by, the value of those would be an ID that points to an element, another element on the page. And so if you already have a label visible on the screen, then you would do ARIA labeled by and reference that instead of typing in text verbatim using ARIA label. So that's the difference in those two. And then ARIA described by is supplemental to the label. So what typically happens is a screen reader will read the label, then it will pause briefly, and then read the described by content. So that's where it comes in handy for things like supplemental help text on form fields.
Right. And then as far as screen reader accessibility goes, ARIA label and ARIA labeled by, they are just somehow the text or these additional information are glued to the element. So when we go through that website, we see them that they are attached. But ARIA described by are only rendered when you tap to them. Somehow they appear in a more dynamic way. So again, ARIA label and ARIA labeled by, they become permanently part of the label that we as a screen reader user, they see. But ARIA described by, they are more dynamic. So they do not show up. The reason is that the reason I'm saying that is that we have to be very careful, because on those areas, if you make everything ARIA label or labeled by, we make our page very verbose. LinkedIn is one of those sites that have everything, they are using ARIA or labeled by. And then, when you read that, this is so much text, so much redundancy, you see that it makes it very difficult to just go through the page quickly. So be careful with the ARIA label and labeled by. If the information is present there, then you might want to use ARIA described by. But if it is not there, or it is difficult to use it with ARIA described by, you want to use ARIA label or labeled by. Wonderful, thank you. Alisa, next.
Yep. So the next one is about consistency of focus management. We talked about a little bit about this earlier with the tab order, but here we'll show how focus can be managed inside a form field. So we're going to find the difference between a phone form field and one for an event calendar.
So I mute myself so you can show that, please.
Yep. So here at the top, we have a phone number form field separated into 3 different fields. So as I type a phone number here, I type in 3 digits and my focus is moved to the next form field. I'll type another 3 digits and the same thing happens again. And then once I've typed my last 4, then I'm done. So as you can see, as I finish each form, it'll tab for me into the next form field. Now for the date field, if I enter in a month, say January 1st, my focus isn't moved to the next form field. I have to tab myself, so I'll tab again. And then you see again, if I type in the day, it doesn't tab for me. I'll have to tab manually again, and then I can fill it out on my own.
Thank you. I can't emphasize enough how consistency is important. Visual consistency at the same with structural and behavioral the consistency. For all of us, we need some time to familiarize ourselves with the look and feel and then behavior of the page. If the behavior is not consistent, so if you are forcing user to practically go in a discovery mode and do that, try different way, because we want to make it more usable. And then if we have to go through discovery mode for every page and familiarize ourselves with the structure of the page and then behavior of the page, then it means every page is a new page. And then we want to avoid that. And as you said, that we have for the very similar thing, one of them is for a date, another for the phone number. Behind the scene, maybe there are a lot of stuff that I haven't thought about it, but it looks very similar. But you see that in a phone number, it behaves differently from versus when you go to the date field. So consistency, and consistency. That is where you can help. Thank you.
All right.
Next.
And then the next one is just some strange focus management behavior with the event calendar, where tabbing in the page will refresh the page.
Why event calendar?
So here I am in the event calendar. Yep, you can mute your screen reader, Hadi. So I'm going to tab to use a keyboard to navigate through this page. So I'm tabbing through the navigation now. And I'm entering the calendar. So I'm on the list box, it's a single day. If I tab one more time, now my focus is at the top of the page and the entire page has refreshed. So it looks like the rest of the page is not keyboard accessible, as well as focus having to be moved back to the top every time you try to access the main content of the page.
Okay. Wonderful, thank you. This is a big problem with not only for screen reader user, it's for any keyboard user. I wanted to make sure that we understand the difference between focus indicator and focus management. Focus indicator is that indicator that all those visual clues that you see with where the focus is. And with focus management, we refer how we handle the focus when we are interacting with the page or with the app. So in this case, you have seen that when she went to a particular field, the focus was not there. It moved to the top of the page. So as a keyboard user, you have to tab n number of times to get where you left off, assuming the rest of that was accessible. So when you are making dynamic event, I mean, for the static page, it is okay. When you go to a page, the focus goes usually to the top of the page. We usually say that for the static pages, do not do anything with the management, with the focus, do not move the focus, and let the browser handle that, which is usually takes you to the top of the page. And a screen reader program, they have some built-in functions that they can allow you to bypass some redundant header information. So you do not need even to know about it, but do not touch it, the focus management on the static pages, unless really there is a reason to do that. But for dynamic pages like this, you have to think about and put yourself as when you're designing that, put yourself in the shoes of those people who are using with the keyboard. Do you want to move the focus to the top of the page when you get to that field? The answer, I guess I know that is not, unless you are crazy. But that is what we want to say. It is not just in this field, for a lot of other stuff, when new events happened. But we can discuss that in a different settings when we have more complicated widgets.
Alyssa, can you scroll down to so we can just look at that widget?
Sure.
Don't interact with it, but just scroll down to it. So I just want to make clear what happened there, that as a user is tabbing through this interface, and when they land on, or when that button that says filter by event type, when that receives focus, it automatically triggers a page refresh or sends the user back to the top. So that seems to be a bug. I would call it a bug, not an intentional design choice. Obviously, you can't do anything after you leave the content above that, because every time you land on the button, the page refreshes. It doesn't happen for mouse users. It only happens for keyboard users. And so the lesson, I think, from this is that when you're testing, and I assume before you roll out a website, you test it extensively and try all the different filters and make sure everything works. Make sure to include keyboard testing, as part of that testing protocol, because this is something that would have shown up if somebody had tried to tab through the page and perform all the same functions with a keyboard that they otherwise can perform with a mouse.
Okay, thank you. Next, Alyssa.
Yep. So we'll be moving over to the Seattle.gov website now.
Okay. And do we want to pass it to Terrell? Because
Sure. Terrell, do you want to speak about the menus across these websites?
Yeah, and let me, if you want to stop sharing, I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
I stop and turned off my video.
Okay. So before I get into the specifics of the sites, I want to share a resource that is really critical. And I tell developers they need to have this in a tab at all times and constantly referencing it. But we've got ARIA, we've got the specification from the W3C, ARIA, but then that's pretty complicated. It's not easy reading, and it's easy to go astray and use ARIA incorrectly, which is where this resource comes in. This is the ARIA authoring practices, which contains a bunch of common design patterns that counter on the web all the time. And so, for example, if you wanted to do a modal dialogue, there is a correct way to do a modal dialogue, and you click on that, and it provides some background on what they mean by modal dialogue. It provides a couple of examples, and this is consistent with all the design patterns that provide the same. Then they document very specifically what the keyboard interaction should be like. So if you press tab, this should happen. If you press shift tab, this should happen. If you press escape, this should happen. And then some additional commentary in the green box. Then it goes into detail about what ARIA needs to be in place in order for this to be accessible to assistive technology users. So this is very prescriptive. It's a recipe for how to create an accessible widget, in this case, an accessible dialogue. Pardon the frog in the voice here. And all you have to do is follow the recipe. And so if you're developing something it's important to consult this and see, is this thing that I'm developing here in the design patterns, or is it, is there something that is a close match? And if you're making a decision, a purchasing decision, or if you're choosing a library widget or a plugin or tool that performs this functionality, make this part of your shopping, that you want a widget that conforms with these design patterns. And the reason this is important is we've got a lot of these things, a lot of modal dialogues on the web. And if every developer does their own thing, and even if it either doesn't consider accessibility or considers accessibility, but does that on their own and sort of gives out an interface that they think works, users are going to have to learn a whole new interface every time they go to a new website. How did they do dialogues on this page, and how did they do dialogues on this page? And it's, you don't have that consistency throughout the web. And so the idea with this resource is, let's rein it in. Let's provide some consistent, accessible design patterns. This is the way a modal dialogue should work. This is how it should be coded. And if everybody follows that design pattern, then every time a user encounters a modal dialogue, it's going to be an accessible experience and a predictable experience. So for menus, since that's the conversation that we specifically want to look at, there are actually a couple of relevant design patterns. One is menu or menu bar. And this is a common source of confusion, actually, because that is in reference to an application menu, not a list of links. So a web navigation menu really is just a list of links, which is different than an application menu. If you think of a menu like in Google Docs, for example, where you've got typical things like you would find in a word processing environment, and drop-down menus that provide functions, not links. That's what a menu or a menu bar is designed to be for. The more relevant design pattern for a function menu, again, a list of links, is this disclosure show/hide design pattern. So kind of hard to find and a little bit confusing because not many people consider their web navigation menu by that terminology. But if we go to that, you can use showing and hiding for different purposes. And so this actually comes in a lot of different contexts on the web, including navigation menus. But it's pretty simple. The heart of it is the element that triggers whatever the content is that's being exposed, in this case, a menu, that should be a button. It says that actually in the ARIA roles, states, and properties section. The element that shows and hides the content should be a button, which should have a button. And then it should have an ARIA expanded attribute, which tells the user whether this is expanded or collapsed. It's either true or false. And optionally, but I recommend that it be added, ARIA controls that references the ID of the content that is being controlled. So that's optional because it's not super well supported by assistive technologies currently, but the potential is there. And I think anywhere you can establish an explicit relationship between the button and the content that's being controlled by the button, you should do that. In terms of the keyboard interaction, that's really simple. You just, when the button has focus, you should be able to press enter or space to activate that button and trigger the expanded content. So if we then look at examples, look at King County first. We have a drop-down menu across the top. And
if you give me a second, I just wanted to emphasize our Bible, which is the ARIA best practices. But when we are meeting with designer developers, even we have been on this page, on the ARIA best practice page, a million times, we go together with the designer and developer there and read that. because as Ethereal mentioned, that if every designer come up or developer comes with his or her own modal or dialog box or any other or widgets, then it will be really a mess, which is like currently we are facing. But that is a goal that we want, that everybody follows that. And believe it or not, a lot of thoughts have been invested into ARIA best practices. Some of us have been part of this design pattern, and then we would love that everybody follows that. And then even for the basic elements that you do there, go there and make sure that you are following the best practices. Thank you. Pass to you.
Yeah, so so back over to the King County menu. First of all, since this is a new menu, we haven't looked at it yet. I'm gonna just tab through it and see what happens. When a top level menu item has focus, first changes from white to gray, and against that black background, I question whether the contrast is sufficient. So that might be an issue, but kind of separate from what we're talking about. But taking the no mouse challenge, now that how do I has focus, I want to press enter or space in order to trigger that. And that actually goes to a new page. It doesn't trigger the submenus. So this is a link, and triggering the submenus does not seem to be possible with a keyboard. If I hover, what I discover is that it unveils a mega menu, as it's commonly called, where you've got a lot of content and structure within that content. So you've got a lot of links, but headings above each link. And so if we look under the hood, I'm going to inspect the code here just to see the things that were recommended in the design pattern, that the element that triggers the submenu should be a button. And it is in fact a link. And then we know that it is an active link. It goes to another page and has not been coded to support display of the submenu for keyboard user. To convert this to a button, all you have to do, you could change it to a button element, or you could add role equals button. And if anytime you add a role, this is ARIA markup too. The role attribute is ARIA. And what that does is it changes an element to whatever the role is. And so it's no longer a link now, it's a button for the purposes of assistive technology users. So screen readers will now recognize this as a button, not as a link. The other thing is it's a tricky issue because you do have the link is serving the function of a link to a new page. And it can't be both a link and a button at the same time. An HTML element can only be one thing at a time. And so you sort of have to decide what's most important here. And the submenu is super convenient, and keyboard users don't have access to that. So I would argue, and do often argue, that top-level menu items should not be links at all. They should be buttons that trigger a submenu. That's their function, is to trigger the submenu. And then this being a button is the first step. What also needs to happen is it needs to have an ARIA expanded, and the ARIA controls attributes as was spelled out in the design pattern. So if we look at the Seattle Center website, this menu, we look under the hood here, has a link as the top level menu item, but it actually does have ARIA expanded. ARIA expanded is true on this one right now. It's false on all the others. And it has ARIA controls. So it's got the ARIA in place. However, this is a link, not a button. So that's the missing piece here, is that should have role equals button. And it too links, I think it does have an href. Yeah, it has an href here. So it too links to another place. So you got a link that's serving two functions, which shouldn't happen. In terms of the keyboard model, if we tab to this, then it opens automatically, which it actually shouldn't. We should be able to move left and right. I'm using my left and right arrows, and I am moving through. When I press enter, that should expand, which it does. If I press escape, it should collapse, which it does. So this is actually a really well-designed menu, and it mostly conforms with the design pattern, other than the fact that those top-level links are links, not buttons. And finally, I just want to look at Seattle.gov, where we had this menu, just a single button in the top. And what we discovered yesterday is when you go to that and you press enter, it does trigger a menu, but focus is not on the menu. And so now I can tab around. I'm pressing tab, and I'm behind the menu. I'm not on the menu. And if I try to escape to close the menu, my focus isn't there, so that doesn't work. So focus management is an issue with this. But if we look under the hood at this one, we see that it is a button. So that piece is good. It's a button that triggers the submenu, but it does not have ARIA expanded or ARIA controls on it. Also, we don't have, this button is labeled with the title attribute. And it's called main navigation menu. And so that's why yesterday we had some redundancy there where it says button main navigation menu button menu, I think, or something to that effect. Because the word menu is here inside that button in span. And so that then becomes redundant. So kind of thinking about how's a screen reader going to announce this? It's going to announce it as a button. But when you say main navigation menu, yeah, and then also add button to that, it becomes a lot of verbiage that becomes a little bit difficult to manage. So anyway, all that to say, check out this resource, the ARIA authoring practices, anytime you're making a decision about how best to code or how to choose a common web widget. Back over to you, Hadi.
Alyssa, can you?
Yep, sending it your way.
And there's a question in chat. Do screen readers interact with tooltips? And Dan replied, it depends on how things are coded, but typically tooltips are by default, title attributes are displayed as tooltips in browsers, and screen readers have a hierarchy of what they read as an element's label. And so if it has text inside it, it'll read that. If it has ARIA label or ARIA label by, that actually overrides the visible text that's inside the element. All of those take precedence over title. So screen readers may read title if nothing else is present, but that really isn't the purpose of title. Its purpose is to display a tooltip. And those other ARIA label and labels and visible text are the typical things that screen readers read.
Okay, thank you. So mentioned that is our point of reference, and then we always go there and check together to make sure that we are implementing things correctly. Alyssa, what is next?
Yeah, so this conversation is in parallel with Terrell's. We're going to talk about a very dynamic widget on the Seattle.gov page, which is the image carousel. I know Hadi will have a couple words about this one. So if you want to tab through the Seattle.gov page and see how focus is managed with the carousel.
Main title content region, Seattle Parks open 7 learning hubs for Seattle students heading level 3 link, Seattle.gov.
Why it is so verbose?
Main title content region, previous icon, same page link graphic.
By the way, I have seen also our King County colleague, also they like it, kingcounty.gov. I mean, is it becoming a trend?
Pause icon, same page link graphic.
Okay.
Previous icon, same page link graphic. Seattle Parks open 7 learning hubs for Seattle students heading level 3 link.
Yep, so that is the
Same page link
component. That is the image
Seattle
carousel
Hub
you're on.
It's one it's a component of carousel.
Yeah, you're on the component. So right now, your focus is on the previous image in the image carousel. Right after that is the pause button, and following that is the next image button.
Main title content region. Find out where menu to get vaccinated.
Let me, I mean, that is how we,
Seattle.gov.
again, when I get here, since the page refresh comes, my focus changes.
Same page link
So-
to the main content. Seattle.gov.
I was taking to the top of the page. So I tried
Alyssa,
to,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Alyssa, are you able to minimize the Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Escape.
There you go.
Seattle.gov. Same page link to
Thank
the
you.
main content.
so I try again to get there.
Banner region. Main navigation menu. Search icon. Search bar. Google Translate disclaimer. Navigation region. List with 10 items. Close main menu. Vaccines available. Heading level 2. Homepage heading level 1.
Okay. Let me go through with the region.
Document region. Navigation 2 of 1. Navigation 0. Main title content region 2 of 6.
Was it here, right?
Yes,
Main
it's
title
that one.
content region. Previous icon. Same page link graphic.
Previous icon.
Find out where menu to get vaccinated for COVID. Same page link graphic. Previous icon. Same page link graphic. Pause. Seattle.gov. home. Seattle.gov.
I mean, I was taken to the top of the page again. So practically, you make it impossible for a screen reader to read the page because every time a page refresh comes, you are taken to the top of the page. So let me share with you. I'm not saying this is the best implementation.
Control T. New tab dash Google Chrome. Toolbar.
I go take it to the UW page. Here, how we have implemented that. First, with the ARIA region. So if I bring up the list of the regions,
Document regions dialog. Regions preview. 1. Audience menu navigation. 1 of 2. And search and quit. 0. Main menu navigation. 2 of 4. Main open. 1. Featured stories slideshow.
do you see that here? Feature stories
Featured stories slideshow. Region 1 of 2.
slideshow. That is how we identify. We wrap that in a region. We call that feature story, and then whatever the title is. So this makes it really easy to identify this is a slideshow. Again, if you do not provide this information, screen reader do not know what you have. Believe or not, one of the most time-consuming process in accessibility testing, when I do that with my team, is that to make sure the synchronization between visual view and then I would call that screen reader view. So there are things that you guys see and the screen reader don't see, and vice versa. And there are something that I cannot even discover it because the page, for example, doesn't tell me that is a menu. So if it doesn't tell me it is a menu, so I consider that as a text. Why should I bother? I cannot go and then click on every single text that I see.
Waiting for Elizabeth to control your screen.
So this is really difficult. So identifying the slideshow region, it is very helpful. So by doing that, I can easily identify there is a slideshow region. I click on it. I am right there. You do not see probably, but when I try to read with my screen reader,
Numbers is up. Heading level 3 native knowledge.
then it's again native knowledge. Was it native? Yeah, native knowledge.
Native American art deserves more thoughtful curation and appreciation of fine art. My school assistant,
I'm
Professor
sorry,
Miller.
I forgot to turn down.
Slower. Slower.
So usually Dan warns me about it.
Native American art deserves how it's presented to the world. Link read more. Next awards of excellence button.
And as you see that the page refresh does not come automatically. And then another good thing that with this implementation is that I do not know it is you see or not, but when it tells me the next button, it's at the next and then followed by the title of the next slide. So I even know that I can stay on the next button.
Temporary. Next awards of enter. Read more.
And then it tells me the next button what the slide is about. So you want the user, is in control of the slideshow. So my recommendation is that put it by default on pause, and then let user do it on their own. Otherwise, you have seen that. I mean, as soon as I get somewhere in that region, that area, when the refresh comes, then the focus is lost. Anything that
Alyssa vote.
Terry, what you would like to add?
Yeah, I'll echo that there actually was a comment in chat yesterday that the Seattle.gov carousel moves too quickly. It is changing every couple of seconds. I don't know if it's like maybe a 5-second cycle. And for some of the ones that have more lengthy text, that might not be enough time even for a sighted user to read that content. Plus, somebody who's easily distracted by moving content, they're trying to read something else on the page, and that constantly is drawing them back to that content, and they can't get away from it. So it's good that you have a pause button. The pause button, by the way, is, I think, fails contrast expectations, that it's hard. It is kind of hard to see, and users might not notice it right away. But yeah, I would argue that putting it in the hands of the user and providing a compelling presentation that says, if you want to proceed to the next slide, please do so, but present it in a way that's compelling. So if you really want them to click that next link, then they'll be motivated to just by the content itself. One other thing that is significant about what the UW has done here is it's not just next, there's a glimpse at what is it they're going to find when they click next. So what's on the screen now is, this is your moment. So the next slide is going to be, this is your moment, and that that is kind of compelling, and I want to click on that to see what the next slide looks like. So don't force it upon users, but convince them that they want to click on next, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're there on the page for some other purpose, not for browsing your slideshow.
And then if anyone, I mean, I know that, again, I heard from many developers that they said that some administrators, they have decided. I'm just telling us, sorry about them. This is accessible. We are breaking the accessibility best practices. And if they have problem with it, I don't mind to talk with them. But no, this is not. You should not jeopardize the accessibility because of your administrator or somebody that through the chain of command likes that. So at the end, go ahead.
Also, just saying, as I'm looking at Seattle.gov now, there's an item. The slide that currently is on my screen is manage your utility account, and that is a link. So whenever you have a function like that in the slideshow, that seems like misplaced functionality, because if Hadi goes there because he's discovered it and wants to manage his utility account, and then by the time he's ready to click that link, it has changed to something else, then he's wondering where that utility account link is, and that's an important function that he's no longer able to find. So I think that probably I would suggest rethinking what goes into that slideshow, that carousel. No, also, just one other point: the design patterns, the ARIA authoring guide has a design pattern for carousels, and so for the overall functionality of how it should be coded and how it should work with keyboard, check out that design pattern, because it's got the ingredients there, the recipe for how it should be coded.
I wanted to mention also one point about that, finding utility. I never really looked for on this page for the link to the utility site. In a very difficult way, which is usually the Google search, which I am sorry to mention that. I mean, if somebody have to go and do the Google search to find the link to the Seattle City of Seattle public utility site, then I really doubt if the page is inviting or constructive, but the Google search should not be used for finding links. So if you put the functionality behind this slideshow that is not accessible, then I'm not surprised why I have to do that Google search to find it. It is possible. I can do that,
JAWS find dot doodle enter screen find result escape.
So
Right now,
I could-
Hadi, you're on the King County website.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Home page header control menu bar.
I can click you to get you.
Yeah, you can click.
YYY Seattle.
Yep, you're there now.
Seattle JAWS find doodle enter heading level 3 link manager utility account. Heading level 1 home page. Heading level 3 link Seattle Parks open 7 learning. Heading level 3 link 5. Same heading level same page link graphic.
So that's exactly what I was afraid would happen. Just happened. You found the link, but then it disappeared on you. You weren't fast enough.
Yeah, what I did earlier, I used a screen reader search within the page. I found it. I was happy, but as soon as I wanted to locate them and just see the surrounding information, it disappeared. So this is definitely something that you do not want that user experience that. But
The good news is, Hadi, maybe you can use that as an excuse for why you didn't pay your bill.
Oh, I did for many places. Just a big as a side story. I mean, I did that with the actually medical center billing statement. I did not pay my $17 past dues stuff for a year. That was the only way to engage them in the discussion. And then and then now, as a result, we engaged them in a constructive collaboration, and then they made that site accessible with their billing system accessible. When I didn't do that, I didn't challenge King County for the property tax. Probably I should do that next time. But thank you. I probably will use it sometime, especially for King County, that you pay so much money for not the great service that we receive, unfortunately. But this is a different story. I mean, okay, thanks. I assume Dan and Teriel, you are watching the chat, and whenever it is relevant, we dive into that. We discuss that. Alyssa, what do you have next?
Well, right now it is 11:08, and we want to save the last 10 minutes for Q&A. Do you think we should move to the King County Local Services site?
I think the session is for 1 hour 45 minutes, so we go until noon.
Mhm.
So while we are on the, I mean, we left a few issues with which was part of the basic stuff. We did. It was a background and color contrast.
Yeah, we can go back to that.
Yeah, if you can elaborate on that, because there was somehow an image in the background which impacted the contrast.
Sure. Yeah, I can share my screen for that too.
Okay, so I stopped.
Alt Control Shift S. Your screen share has been live.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so right now I'm showing the seattlecenter.com website, and on top, in the main level navigation, we have the same one that Terrell has been talking about. We also see that under that, there is a background image. So here we have an issue of color contrast. When you have a background image under text like this creates varying levels of color contrast. So if I go to the main page, you can see that the background image has changed again. And since we have different colors here, there'll be different amounts of contrast between, say, the white here and this dark of blue, or the white and this shade of red. And this is an issue because you want the same ratio of color contrast so that users with low vision are able to read text on a background. And additionally, since it changes every time with the refresh, you never have a stable color contrast ratio between the color of the navigation text and the background image. There is a gradient that is right above the background image and also under the text, which again creates different amounts of color contrast. So a solution here could be to darken this gradient so it is one stable color. So it's one contrast ratio between the color of the text and this gradient here. However, just an easier way would be to remove the background image from this navigation. So there's one color contrast ratio between the text and the background color. And then do we want to talk about accessibility checkers? We haven't touched upon those at
Yeah,
all.
actually, I was about to say that. I briefly mentioned that the difference between technical accessibility versus functional accessibility yesterday. As you have seen that, I don't know Teriol has shown that or not, but Elisa uses accessibility testing tools to get more information about the technical issues. Is my video on?
Now it is.
Now it is on. We use those tools to get more information about the technical issues. And then they are great tools. Again, I would like to use another German terms, genießen Sie mit Vorsicht, enjoy it with care. So do not rely too much on those things. At the most, they can get up to 30% of accessibility issues, mostly, everything, technical, and they do not tell you anything about the overall accessibility of the page. But there are some basic stuff that you can catch, and we use accessibility testing tools. Last Global Accessibility Awareness Day, Elisa and some of my other students, they showcased several of these testing tools that we recorded them. Teriol or Dan, if you can provide the link in the chat to those recordings, if they are there. So I refer you to those tools, how to install it, and then how to use it, and you will see them in action by my students. So feel free to use them. So Elisa, any additional thing that you want to add with the testing tools?
Yep. Hadi covered most of it. Again, they are not holistic tools that show you the accessibility of your entire website, just certain technical errors that we'll find through its testing algorithm. Additionally, it can be hard at first to, as a beginner of accessibility, figure out what all these issues are. Certain tools are better than others, so it's good to do your research and to find what suits your level of accessibility experience.
Wonderful. Then Teriol, anything you want to add to it?
Just the URL. I know we've shared it before, but typing it in chat for our own tools site, uw.edu/accessibility/tools. Links to a bunch of different tools that we within the IT accessibility team use, and it's an annotated list and with links, so you can go out and check out all the tools.
Do we have the
Actually,
recording for Global Accessibility Awareness Day?
Yeah, I think so. I'll share that link in a bit too.
Okay.
I also want to, whenever we're ready to move on, I have another topic that I don't know if we were going to talk about, but magnifying the font.
I think you can do that now, magnifying the font. Then we can focus on the King County site that our colleague has shared with us.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Let me share my screen. So this is, we talked a lot about WCAG 2.1 yesterday, but there is a success criteria that sometimes is overlooked. And that is 1.4.4. It's a level 2A issue, but resize text. It says, except for captions and images of text, text can be resized without assistive technology up to 200% without loss of content or functionality. And a way to test that within Firefox. Firefox is actually the easiest for testing this. You can go into the view menu, and I'm on a Mac, so this may be a little different. And actually, I don't know if you see, Alyssa, can you see my menu as it's popping
Yes,
down? Or
I see the
is that
context menu.
invisible to you? You do see it?
Yes.
Okay. So the view menu has an option zoom, and within that, you can zoom text only. Otherwise, it zooms everything uniformly. And so some users do zoom everything uniformly, in which case you don't change the layout at all by making things larger. But what zooming text only does is it makes the text bigger, but it does not force the user to scroll horizontally. So if you just enlarge everything, the user has to scroll horizontally, and users sometimes don't want to do that. Also, in every browser, users can change the size of their font, either smaller or bigger. And if they make their font much larger, then that is going to give you a very different look. And what we're doing here in Firefox is replicating that. So the goal is 200%, and it's going to be ugly. It's always going to be probably ugly, maybe not necessarily, but it's not going to look the way you envisioned it as a designer. But the goal is for all the functionality to still be there, all the content to still be there. So here on the Seattle Center website, I'm using Command plus to increase the font. I'm at 110% now. And remember, the goal is 200. So now I'm at 120 and everything still works. 130, things start to disappear. I lost that menu altogether. And I don't know where it went or how to find it. But if I keep going, 150, 170, 200, then I've lost most of my content. The choose a language widget is still accessible. There's a green circle that I'm not sure what that does, and so I'm sort of afraid to click on it. If I scroll down, then the circles that were down at the bottom, there's one circle that consumes the entire page, and basically the page has become entirely inaccessible now to somebody who needs to magnify the text at this level. If we go over to seattle.gov and do the same thing, 110, 120, 133, it's not falling apart quite to the same extent that Seattle Center did, but at 170, we've got a lot of content that is escaping the little boxes that it originally was in. And so that then becomes just text overflowing with other text and unreadable against backgrounds and so forth. By the time we get to 200, we really have kind of a mess. It's not quite as bad again as the Seattle Center, but still that needs some improving. If we look at King County, increase, all the way up to 200%. Again, not quite the site that was designed, but all the content is still accessible. And the big difference here is that the boxes that contain the content were allowed to expand to accommodate the larger text. And so they didn't have fixed, usually it's fixed heights are the problem. If you explicitly define a height in CSS, then that doesn't grow. The text grows and it exceeds the boundaries of that box. But the box stays the same size. And so, but King County actually has done a good job. There may be some things that are obscured now if we look a little bit more closely at it, but by and large, I would say this meets that success criterion. That it looks like everything here is still accessible, even though we're looking at it at 200%. That's all.
It looks like we have a question from Jim. It says, How about with WCAG 1.4.10 reflow and mobile view at 320p?
Terry, do you want to take it?
I think we probably would need to look at with a different device. I'm not best to do that. I'll give that some thought. What you guys are talking about the next thing.
Okay. That's great. Did we consider these stuff that you just mentioned as a part of basic accessibility stuff? But yesterday we ran out of time. I mean, if we didn't have any meeting scheduled for the lunch, I mean, after that, we probably would have gone over time, but we had other meeting scheduled. Wonderful. So now, if you, we would like to go and then look into the King County site, and then I appreciate that our colleague from King County, she volunteered to have us a kind of quick accessibility check on that. And I would like to tell us a little bit about your site, how it has been developed. It is in-house, the application, or it is outsourced to some other places?
We have a third-party content management system. Well, it's supplied by a third party, and it's managed by our web team, our central enterprise-wide web team. And then within the constraints of that template, agencies develop their own sites to suit their own content communication needs. And so with certain elements of the way the site is put together, we have sort of a choose from a list for widgets, and we have certain things that we all have to use the image across the top visually, and those links across the top are standard and automatic. Our menus down the navigation column are automatically produced. We can have small effects on those, but then the things that are in the main body area of the page, the footers are also automatic. And I think we're welcoming input on this whole thing. We're in the process of redesigning the entire King County web template. So any and all feedback is welcome. But what I did and we did in my agency was to produce the main body of that page and the child pages as a way to introduce people to a new King County agency that was just created 2 years ago, and is a strong effort to reach out to people who have not felt connected with King County government in the past, because it's people who live outside of cities and have seen King County as being mostly a Seattle organization or a Seattle focused organization. So I have been not knowledgeable about some of the things I've already learned in this workshop. And so I would really benefit from finding out where I should be directing my attention in improving this site even before we do the enterprise-wide redesign.
Wonderful. Once again, thank you very much for sharing that. And we are good at that. We can provide you a lot of feedback, more than what you probably want. But we will be glad to do that. But we have a lot of other colleagues from the across the state, and then we would love your feedback too. We would like to make it this remainder of this session more interactive. Please feel free to chime in if you would like to share your opinion. Yeah, this is great. You mentioned that you are using a content management system. What is it? Which content management is it?
Sitecore.
Sitecore. No, I'm not familiar with that. So okay, but that is good. I appreciate that. Now sit down, enjoy the
Yes.
show. Then we go to that. Wonderful. Thank you again for letting us to look into that. Okay, Alyssa, can we go to that page?
Yep, just share screen, Hadi.
Oh, do I need that?
Yeah.
It really helps, huh?
All right, sending request control.
Print closed. You can regain approve but enter meeting controls. Waiting for a list.
Okay.
Leaving menus. Local services dash King County.
Right, you're on the page.
Okay.
Am I an unincorporated King County tab? Local
Okay.
services. Local services.
So I would like that all the colleagues have the chance to co-browse with us. Please load that page.
Waiting for a list of votes.
Everybody can see the URL? Or you want us to
I can paste it in chat.
the chat? Yeah.
All right, I sent it out to chat.
Perfect.
Same page link. Skip the main content.
Okay. That is great start.
Link graphic King County logo.
Now, let me, as we said, I mean, I really didn't have time to sit down with my colleagues to go through that. So I mean, what you see that it is completely new. So I do not know what I should be expecting or not. Now, let me first, as a screen reader, tell you that we checked for the ARIA landmark,
Document region.
and this is a list of the landmark banner,
Navigation 1 of 1.
one navigation, subregion.
0. Navigation 2 of 3.
Oh, this is another navigation. So we know, I think we can see immediately, we do not, since they don't have any label, we do not know which navigation is which. So again, back to your designer, come up with a good naming for the stuff and help in that contained in this region.
Content information.
Oh, then content information, which is the footer. So what we are missing is the main. So I assume you have some other content that besides footer and navigation.
Content.
So the entire main is not labeled properly. So the container element needs a role equal main. If you are using the HTML, if you are using HTML5, then it is a main nav we need for that. I do not know about the book, if there's any other missing content, I mean, missing region, because main is not there. So it is very difficult to say that if you have any orphan content. At this time, the entire main is orphan. But once we have it, we will be glad to check it again with you, or you are most welcome to do it by yourself. If you check one of those accessibility testing tools that the Teriel probably has sent the URL to, you can learn how to do that by yourself. Now,
Escape.
I got here. Now I want to get since I didn't have the main, I would like to get the list of the headings. See that, do I get any information about get an outline of the content?
Heading list. Local services : 1 of 8.
Local services, sounds good. Starts with 1.
Am I an unincorporated King County : 4.
4. So I would like to talk with the developers. So if he can, my famous joke, if he can count. 4 comes after 3. But so you see that the break of the logic here. Then we jump to
Community service areas : 3.
then we say 2. I mean, heading 3
King County conservation
and
corps:
3
economic development
and 3.
field office hours : 3.
So-
Service partnerships fashion local lunch : 3. Contact us email newsletter : 3. Permits : 2. Road serve permits : 2.
Permits is it goes to the heading 2. So
Road services : 2. Other services : 2.
okay, when I see this stuff, this beginning heading 3, they probably gave me the warning. I should not rely 100% on the logical heading structure.
Information for : 4.
And again, another break of from 2 we jump to heading level 3.
Do more online : get help :
And-
languages :
Okay, so a lot of good headings, but
Okay.
again, I do not know how they are related. I mean, if they are, if the relationship is correct, or where the breaks. I mean, the problems are. So I have to go to discovery mode and then find it. So at this time, I don't want to do it because I didn't come here for a specific stuff, but I would like to go to the heading 1.
Local services heading. If you live or do business in.
So it starts, if you live or do business, blah, blah.
Am I in unincorporated King County tab?
Okay, that is the first thing that I see, that where it says, am I in unincorporated King County? My screen reader announced that is a tab. Tab means it is a either a tab panel. Tab panel is a very specific widget, and then and then the behavior is very different. So I press enter on it.
Enter.
My screen reader were in interactive mode. Didn't do that anything, I guess. I press space bar.
Space.
Nothing.
Space.
Nothing.
Enter.
Okay, so then I press right arrow key, because if it was a tab panel, the arrow key should have taken me through the tab list items. So, but it doesn't. So then I know that here there is an accessibility problem.
Virtual PC.
I
Let
can't.
me scroll back up, Hadi. so
Is
you
the
can
voice
see.
alert zoom colon 110%.
No, it's zoomed in. Let me fix
Context
this.
menu. New tab control alert 100 for leaving menus. Local services dash king.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Did we miss anything that I need to show that again or not?
No, I think we're good.
Very good. So,
Yep.
so the first problem is this tab.
Heading level 4 same page link expanded by an unincorporated King County.
Okay, then it said that expand collapse widget I have here.
Heading level 4 same page link expanded by an unincorporated King County.
I press the space bar on this.
Space tab by an unincorporated King County. Tab by an unincorporated King County. Heading level 4 same page link collapsed.
Oh man, I had to hear so much information, and at the end I heard that it is collapsed.
Space expanded. Space collapsed.
Now it says go. So, but you
Escape.
see that this is a discovery that I am doing. I am not really, if I was a real user, I wouldn't be that patient to come. I mean, like you, when you go to a website, you don't put everything under magnification, or don't check every item if they are what they are, if they are doing what they're supposed to do.
The county maintains county roads.
So, but I know that somehow I got the impression this is an expand collapse widget. So I assume some information has been expanded.
Are grouped into 7.
And
Link community service areas. King County local services that do and tell us what you think. Block quote.
okay, so I see that expanded area. I don't see a clear division where the
No. Right now it's collapsed, Hadi.
is collapsed.
Yes.
The two King link are grouped into the county heading level 4 same page link collapsed some space expanded.
There you go.
Virtual PC. Here are 2 ways to find out.
Now it's that. So it was not completely clear to me because text is text, right? And then I do not know exactly where the extended or expanded text ends.
List of 2 items.
So I see there's a list of 2 items.
1. Find or enter your address. Visited link on this map.
Then on this map,
The green layer shows unincorporated King County.
here just to see, listen to the verbiage here. The green, what's it, layer? Layer shows under, what they call that?
Unincorporated King County.
Unincorporated. I remember. I didn't show you. I have I'm using a braille display here to read the content. So
2. Enter your address in.
then enter your address in.
Link King County's parcel viewer.
Parcel viewer.
And see what's listed as the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
List end. The county maintains county roads and bridges. Issues permits
Okay.
are grouped into 7.
Okay, then we get again. It was not completely clear for me where the expanded text ended, but that was some problem.
Link community service areas. King County local services is here.
I don't want to really read line by line. Sometimes I do that purposely to see that how boring it is, see or how difficult it can be. But for the lack of time, sake of time, I don't want to do that right now. This is something that I just first one of the things that I wanted to share with you. I wanted also to tell you about a few cleanup that we can do that I have already checked the menu system. I'm sorry.
Local services, same page link, skip the main content. Links list, dot skip them, can count, how do I services, about can department, skip the main content.
Yeah, here I saw that earlier. Do you see there is we have two skip to main content. I usually do not, we usually see the skip to right at the beginning of the page, like
Escape,
this.
escape, escape, virtual PC, local, skip the main content, same page link.
I do not know it is visible by default or not, but usually when you, as a keyboard user, you tap to it, it should be visible. Alyssa, can you confirm that it is visible now?
Yes, it is visible.
And then, I know that Dan is going to ask me, check it if it works.
Enter, list of 2 items, home, local services, if you live or do.
Okay, stop.
Navigation region end, list of 2 items,
Okay, then it's,
link home, local services, list end, heading level 1 local services.
okay. Now I saw, now when I'm experimenting that, I am discovering that. It is sad that I have to do so much experiment to see how the page is constructed. It took me to the beginning of the main region, which is missing. We don't have the proper role here implemented yet.
List end, local
But-
services.
And prior to that, it took me to a breadcrumb that you visually see that, nicely see that, but I do not see it.
Let me
But-
move the meeting controls so you can see it.
Menu, meeting control button dock to the top, leaving menus, local services dash.
Yep, so there is the breadcrumb there.
But you see, but there is no label for that.
I see, yes.
Yeah. I want to show you the list of the heading, a list of the regions again.
1, 0, navigation, 2 of 3, content information,
As I said, main is missing, breadcrumb is missing,
nav 1,
and 2
navigation,
navigations have the same label.
0,
So I would
one.
like to ask
0,
everyone, really everyone. So based on
One.
what you see, how would you, what can you suggest a meaningful name for this navigation
0,
and another name for this navigation? Let's do that in an exercise, because once we do it, we can do that in the DOM, make the necessary change in the DOM, and you can see how will impact the discoverability of the content. Then, are you receiving any feedback from colleagues
One.
about the naming?
Not yet.
What is the second navigation?
0,
How do you-
navigation,
Where do you
enter,
go when you follow it?
navigation region, same page link, skip the main content,
It starts with the same skip to navigation,
visited link local services,
then it's like visited the local services,
link news center,
then news center,
link newsletter,
newsletter,
link permits,
and permits, and so on. But I do not know where it is located.
link road services,
Road services,
link local services programs.
you guys see that?
So I'm going to answer this on behalf of folks, and that is it already has a name. There's a kind of a main, what I would say is a main navigation menu going across the top. But then the second one is context sensitive, I think. Right now we're on the local services page, and so there is a local services menu. But it actually has what appears to be a heading above it that says local services. And so this would be a good use case for ARIA labeled by,
Yeah.
where you have a navigation region, and you have on that navigation region, which would either be the nav element or whatever element has role equals navigation. Then you've got ARIA labeled by, and then point to the ID of that local services heading. And then it becomes the local services menu. And that may be different on a different page, but if you've got that built into your theme, then it's always going to choose the right element for the label for that that navigation.
But Terrell, do you think, is it something that we can do that on the fly? It is not, it doesn't seem it is very dynamic. If the page does not refresh, but can we do that? Help me to edit the DOM or you, Alyssa, to make that connection, and so everybody can see the result of that.
Are you able to do that, Alyssa?
Yep.
I can provide some coaching if you need it.
Sure, yeah. All right, so
So everybody be ready for a now more deep dive into coding. So she's going to change the DOM.
all right, so I'm going to right click
Context
on the
menu.
page.
Echo plus left arrow unavailable. Reload control
I-
plus R.
I
1 of 10.
mute my screen reader so you can.
All right, so it looks like there is already a comment here for the side navigation of this page. It looks like there it is, the role equals navigation. So if I double click here, then I should be able to edit this. So we're adding an ARIA label to this, or
Or label by to the
to
heading,
the, I see.
to the heading, that prior heading.
Okay.
So you'll need to find that text,
Right.
the local
ID.
services element, and see if it has an ID. And if not, one would need to be assigned, which would happen dynamically probably, rather than you typing something in. But
Let me try to find where it is on the page.
I think you might be on the main navigation there.
Really?
Yeah, it does
Oh,
say
maybe
side,
not. That says side.
Yeah.
side nav, yeah.
it's inside that the div, the list group div. That link right there is the item.
That should be it? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have an ID, so it would need one.
Let's just make one.
Do ID equals, we'll just call this local services. And if I go up to the container, which is here, double click this. Labeled by local services. So I'm adding the ARIA attribute that will attach this container for the sidebar navigation to the heading that we saw earlier. And it should be in, Hadi.
Okay, this is one piece, and then we can do that other for breadcrumb later. So if
Okay.
you can close the inspector element, please.
Yep.
Okay, now
Local services dash K.
I bring up the list of the ARIA landmark again.
Document regions side 1. Navigation 0. Local services navigation 2 of 3.
You see
Local,
that? Now we have
1 0. Local services navigation.
local services navigation, which is much more meaningful than just navigation. Does it make sense?
Content information.
Now,
Local ser
what is missing is a main.
1. Navigation
And
1 of
then-
0. Banner opened 1 item. 1. Navigation 0. 1. Enter. Navigate list of 5 items. Link.
Okay,
Link how do I dot dot dot.
okay, but yeah,
Link
we
list of
get
5. 11:44 a.m.
11:44. Well, we have 14 minutes. I mean, 44 minutes, 16 minutes. And then, do you want? I'm asking everyone. Do you prefer that we go through the another exercise with the labeling the regions, or we go with the other? We continue with the other issues. Feedback.
Let's suggest other issues. I think personally, I think maybe I can't speak on behalf of the other 70 or so people, but regions, I think we've hit that message home. I
Yeah,
actually have one other issue while it's on my mind, if I may. There's a bar at the bottom of the screen, which I didn't actually notice at first, but it has suddenly jumped out at me. That has information for ... do more online, get help, and Espanol. And those probably, particularly the last two, get help and the Spanish version of the website, would probably be pretty critical things that are sort of visually buried at the bottom. As I said, I didn't notice it until just now. But also, if you're a keyboard user, it's like an oasis that you see on the horizon, but no matter how many miles you walk, you just can't seem to get any closer to it. So you're tabbing, 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 and it keeps going down because it's positioned, absolute or fixed on the screen, and a user can't get to it until they get all the way to the bottom of the page. And so I would argue that for the other sites we looked at, the language translator was up at the top, and that seems like better placement for things that are that critical, as opposed to putting them at the bottom where they can be overlooked and can be very difficult for keyboard users to access.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is not actually a translation. I think it takes you to Spanish pages. It's not machine translated. It takes you to Spanish pages that are a subsite of the entire King County website that have been hand translated by humans. So if it were to be at the top, people might think, oh, great, I'll just check the Spanish version of this page, and they would be disappointed.
So it might be, I guess I question then whether even having it featured as prominently as it is needed. Looks like it's a link to another link in the footer. Is that the deal? Or no, all those things are in the footer.
It's a part of the footer that persists as you scroll through the page.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other issue, I don't know if we want to talk about language or not, because all three of these sites have had some foreign language content. Are there other more important issues that you want to explore, Heidi?
There are some that
Okay.
and I would like to invite everyone to. I mean, if my friends from King County, they are looking to change the template, I would love to invite them to the next monthly Explore meeting that we have. So we are sitting with the other peers, and then other experts with accessibility in mind, to provide some feedback if you are interested. It happens usually on the second Thursday of the month from 10 to 11, same room. But one thing that I want to mention is this. I use it as an opportunity because you mentioned that you are considering to change the template, and that is a really great opportunity. So we can look into together and then discover some other potential accessibility enhancement / bugs, if there is. I want to talk about at least two things. One of them is a link that doesn't have any label. Let me.
Local link graphic and county logo, navigation region, banner region, navigation region, list with 5 items, link.
What is this link?
Visually, it is a home icon.
Okay, has no label. Okay, so that is it can it can be another crime. Okay, do not make the. I couldn't even. I mean, I didn't try to click it because I didn't have time. But you might want to make it a good label for that. Wanted to look into the graphics.
Select the graphic and footer logo.
Here's a list of the icons and graphics that we have.
Oh, King County logo.
King County logo.
John Taylor portrait. Footer logo.
I mean, what is footer logo? I never knew that there is a footer
Waiting for a list
logo.
of
What is a footer
Escape.
logo? Is it really a picture, a logo, or something?
Looks like it's the King County logo again in the footer.
Okay. Again, using different name, it can cause confusion for the same graphics. I do not know how important it is to put that. I mean, for the second time, it is important to put it on the top so people can identify with it. But wrap it in the King County logo, I see that for the first time as a kind of practice. I don't have any strong opinion, but I think it is just adding more noise to the page.
Question, is there any conceivable user who would be using,
Upside
would
down?
be, well, no, is there any conceivable user who might be made aware that there's some kind of graphic in the footer, and if it were not labeled again, they might see an unlabeled graphic?
No, once you
Okay.
put the graphic as a, you put it, the attribute is alt equal and then whatever the label. But if you keep that blank, call alt equal quote, then you're telling the screen reader, do not render. This is a stylistic image. So they do not even render that.
And that is a quote mark, open quote and close quote right next to each other with no space in
With no
between.
space. Yeah, no. So it is
Thank
important. No spaces. It's important. Yeah.
Escape.
So another important thing that we might want to get to is in the afternoon in the mapping session is this page that
Home page. Header controller unincorporated
it was this page that
map area.
Yes, this is the correct page.
Application mode. Double tap to access.
one thing that I'm concerned, what problem that I had always with the King County is that we have, how many districts we have in King County? 7? I don't know, but I do not know that. There is no, I haven't found any way that I know in which district I live. I remember, I was, I saw Gunnar Scott was a part of the participants, so hopefully he's there. I know that at some stage, we had to fill out a form, and then one of the questions was which district you live. Okay, and then they said they gave it a map, but how do I know that? So I looked for that. I couldn't find. Maybe there is one. I couldn't find easily a means to find where I live, which district I live. So here you were saying that, or the text, not you, said that green line borders specify the what was that, on something?
The unincorporated area, that means are you inside or outside of an incorporated city?
Yeah. So
this is a GIS application.
Yeah.
So maybe our GIS people could very much benefit from connecting with you guys as well. But there was a second method available that might work better for screen reader users.
We do have there's a map session this afternoon that I play a very brief role in, but then we're handing it off to your GIS folks. And
yeah, please invite them if they are not there. Yeah, to that. But again, once we do we decide to put this on the map, we have to think about alternative way. Here in this page,
application mode.
I was able to do that, but remember, I am an advanced user, and then I am also very familiar with the coding, and then I can look as under hood what's happening and get most of the time the information that I need. But by default, many people cannot do that. Still, I do not know that. I cannot figure out. I know that I live in King County, but I cannot find any place that I, for certain, with for sure, somebody can say you live in a King County. So that is one of my other issue that I wanted to list. That I see that as a big problem. But back to that landing page. Alyssa, if you can take me to the landing page.
Yep.
Alyssa Vo is controlling your screen.
Yeah. So
control.
We mentioned that, but the heading structure needs to be changed.
Heading list unincorporated local
and then escape. Tab was the problem. The tab panel widgets. And Terrell, do you want to look under the hood why they use that tab?
Depends. We've got 5 minutes, and you have to stop right at the top of the hour. Is that
okay?
Enough time to cover this, or do you have some other things you want to get to?
Probably, yeah, we don't have time to look into that, but we will be glad to showcase this site if you are interested, your team, in our next monthly meeting that we have. And then, thank you very much again for sharing your site for accessibility feedback. I sincerely appreciate. So we can go through the questions. If you don't have any question, then I can start the test. I can ask everyone a accessibility question to make sure that you pass this session. That was a joke. No, I'm not testing. Any question?
Don't see any right now.
So I have a question about foreign language, if you don't mind humoring
Please,
me.
yeah. Please, yeah.
If you go to let's pick one, either Seattle.gov or Seattle Center. Let's do Seattle Center.
Okay. Seattle Center.
Map area. Menu bar.
I'll take you there, Hadi.
You can, yeah, please.
Seattle Center. Seattle
Yep.
Center.
And then do you want to choose a different language from the list of languages? That's a combo box, I think.
No selectable ARIA controls. Combo. Virtual PC.
So this is there are no selectable areas. Let me see that if I can find with the heading.
Heading list dialog. Feature 20 N. Sign up resources. :3. L. Get sponsors. Getting website. Number feature. State 20. Featured in Seattle Opera President.
No, I didn't find it.
Escape.
Where I can find it?
It's near the top of the page after
Seattle COVID-19.
the COVID
Seattle.
announcements.
Further notice. Link more. Close button. Canvas closure. Close button. Welcome to Seattle. Link. Choose a link. Visited link. Choose a language.
Link, choose a language. This is a link.
Link. Choose a language.
So it should be a button,
Link. Choose a
as
language.
we've talked about already.
Yeah.
Enter. Choose a language. Link.
So choose a
And
language.
it should have ARIA expanded. That wasn't communicated, and so that's an issue
List
too.
of 12 items. Link. Ain Rebel Lif Maxura. Enter. List with 12 items. Ain Rebel Link. Arabic. Yabet Azeh. Aleph Lab.
So if your screen reader supported Arabic, it would be able to read this.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean I wanted to go to German, but I clicked on that.
Seattle Center. Aleph
So,
Lab.
Alyssa,
Yeah,
can
instead of
you
clicking,
change it
just
back to English?
navigate through the menu.
Yep, I can change it. Do you want me to change it to German?
I want to go through the list of the opera.
Yeah, okay.
Arabic. Aleph Kantera Lam.
Well, I don't know which one is English now, but
Yeah, why don't you go use the back button to go back to the English version,
Oh, back
and then
Tab dash Google.
yeah, and we're rapidly running out of time, so I'll just summarize that the key point is you've got all those languages in the menu, but they don't have the lang attribute on them, and so they're all going to be pronounced in English, or JAWS is going to make some effort to pronounce them in English, which isn't going to make a whole lot of sense for most of them. If the language itself has a language equals FR, for example, for Francais, then it's going to be pronounced in the appropriate French accent if Hadi Screen Reader supports that language. So since he's looking for German, probably it does support Deutsche. And so what is that, DE? Is that the lang code? So it would need lang equals DE in order for Hadi Screen Reader to pronounce it correctly. So the landing pages for each of those foreign language translations do have lang correctly tagged within the HTML element, but they are not tagged correctly within the menu itself.
But for the fun, Alyssa, can you choose the German one?
I'm not sure if we'll get back there. I think the last time it was all in
Seattle Center
Arabic.
dash Google Chrome.
Yeah.
Seattle Center, 5 regions, 12 headings, and 50 links.
It's German now?
No, now the language on this box is entirely in Arabic, so I can't tell which one is German and which one
Arabic,
is
Aleph Lab.
English.
I think if
Aleph
you just use the back button, but we're down to 1 minute,
Yeah.
so.
But you will see that if the proper language and lang attribute is set, so the screen reader switches automatically to that. If you don't do that, then everything is read with in English, but they don't make sense.
Alyssa, this is JP. So we don't leave Hadi in Arabic. English is the 4th option down.
Oh, thank you, JP. But it looks like we are at the top of the hour and the interpreters stop during the lunch break.
Yeah. Well, let's do that anyway. I would like to override.
Oh,
So
sure. Okay.
They can wait. They can wait 1 minute. 1
Meme
minute.
recap Zyzine Aleph Lab. Link Aleph.
You also lose the captioning.
We lose again, but they also
List with 12 items. Arabic. Tek Hafalef Lamia Dal Sad
Okay, that's
the German.
List of 12
No,
items.
this is
Chinese.
Chinese.
No, thank you. My
One,
Chinese is not that good.
That
List
should be
with 12 items.
English.
Chinese. Link. Seattle Center.
Why
Seattle
we don't-
Center. 5.
Why we don't make it simple combo box? So it's-
Yeah, this, I think it might be an embedded Google widget. But anyway, I do think we need to stop.
Yeah.
For the
Easy.
benefit of
Yeah.
the captionist interpreter.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. As I said, we will we can find a lot of accessibility the features that we can discuss. I hope it was somehow eye-opening for you, this session. We will continue this afternoon at 1, and as I said, we will have lunch break today. And then after that, I mean, at 1, Gaby will continue with the PDF remediation. And then at 2:15, I think we will have a discussion in map accessibility. And the last session is about the user experience and the user considering accessibility in the design software design. And then finally, the wrap up. Thanks again, and see you in an hour.